everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hey Hire Us. I am one of your hosts, Abigail.
I'm Ariel.
And today our wonderful, lovely guest is Jelly. Or Cynta.
Yeah.
I know her it's Jelly though. hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Do you want to introduce who you are and what you do to our lovely listeners?
Yeah, I could do that real quick. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Cynta. Any name is fine. Jelly is fine too. I am an illustrator. I also do comics. I kind of do like everything in between. Honestly, it depends on like what I'm feeling at the moment. But my real big passion is for comics. Um, and I'm doing freelancing now, and I'm looking for jobs. I guess,
Nice.
like all of us do.
That's why you're here. We gotta get you into any kind of just any sort of job. Jelly can do so many things, and I'm excited to talk about it in this podcast. But before we delve into that and like all her experience, we have little corners for those. This is your first time listening. We start with the pitching corner, where our guest pitches themselves to all of you, but with a little twist. It's either through infomercial style or rap style. We have people sing. We haven't had an ASMR spoken word, but I'm down for that.
I'm still violently against ASMR. Please do not. Future guests, this is a warning now. Consider yourselves warned.
No, threatened with a knife. But for my end, I'm like very much encouraged. But yeah, what do you have prepared for us today?
Oh my god. So it's funny that you mentioned that because was listening to a bunch of the episodes. It was really good. And in my mind, I was like, Chinta, do not forget to write stuff down for this segment. And then I just completely forgot about it until you mentioned it. So, I mean, ASMR, like, I'll probably do like an infomercial. I don't know.
Yeah, infomercial's good. That's a good go-to.
I've never done an ASMR video before, so you just hear me just like tapping on my tablets.
I know.
Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Okay, cool. I have something in my mind. All right. Hey you! Are you looking for a cool illustrator? Well, hello there. My name's Cynta Camilia, and I'm definitely the illustrator for you. I do a ton of really cool things. I storyboard a little. I do comics. I love comics. I do a bunch of illustrations. If you want me to be a graphic designer, sure, I could try to do that. You know, it's something I still need to learn. Typography doesn't make sense to me, but I will learn it for you. I promise you. I'm a hard worker. I love colors, shapes, textures, anything that's cool. And yeah, please hire me, you know, with the links below, I guess.
Yes,
I
call
love
this number now.
Yes.
That was really good for being off the cuff. I love that sort of, bounciness, a little enthusiasm, and that's why you should hire Chinta.
Yes,
at
please.
This number, at this email. Listen to till the end of the podcast, and then we can get all of her links and social medias and wherever, all the stuff where you can find her, of course. But yeah, I actually met or actually discovered Chinta's art in a very unconventional way compared to how I normally discover people's art, which is through TikTok, which is a wonderful app that I didn't want to get into because I knew it was gonna suck all the time out of my life, and it does. And now, like, I'm like one of the, like, in my friend group, I'm probably the person like who is on TikTok the most.
You are.
So whenever there's just like all the trends on TikTok, I can't really talk about it with anyone else. I'm like, oh, this trend's going on, and everyone's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like,
Disclaimer
cool.
about Abby. So like I also went into the TikTok trend, but I'm not as active on TikTok. However, Abby is, and Abby uses me as like a place to save all her favorite TikToks. So all my messages are just TikToks from Abby that she just saves for reference.
I used to send you so many TikToks, but then now I'm like, oh, Ariel doesn't come on here anymore. And then I feel bad because then I can't find TikToks that I want to save because I don't send it to Ariel. But TikTok is a wonderful place with all a bunch of artists, and that definitely can apply to Jelly here because I feel like you definitely use the platform in such a wonderful and unique way, in a way that I really enjoy using it, which is to like teach other people about art and like all the tricks and to motivate other people. So do you want to talk about like how you what like how you got the ideas for the videos or what pushed you to making TikToks, I guess.
Yeah, no, yeah, I can definitely talk about that. So I was the same thing. Like I was one of those like millennials that were like TikTok. That's not really my thing, you know. But then I was there like all the time during like the first wave of the pandemic, and I was like thinking to myself, and I had the same feeling too. I was like, oh, this is like kind of cringy, you know. Like I'm not really into those like thirst traps, you know.
Yeah.
But then like I was like, oh, and then I found out like there was a community of artists that do their stuff there, and they do it in a very cool, interesting way. There's like people who educate people, a lot of people who give like tips, you know. Like I learn new
Mhm.
things like all the time on TikTok. I'm currently using like Clip Studio, and there's like tons of artists that are like showing new things because
Yeah.
like Clip Studio like does
Mhm.
everything, but it's like you know
Yes, it
I would
does.
it's I wouldn't say it's like the most like user friendly because I guess I'm so used to like Procreate, which is more user friendly in my
Mm.
opinion. So
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
I have to always like Google stuff up, like random stuff, like how to rotate or stuff like that, because it's like I didn't know about it. And so like for TikTok, I think it was like, was it last summer or was it like just this like year I started it because I told myself, oh, I could definitely try doing that, you know, because this was during when I had burnout. And when I had
Mm.
burnout, I wasn't drawing and I wasn't really doing anything like this. Like honestly, I was like sleeping most of the time, which is like super sad.
Mhm.
And but
Mhm.
I just wanted to like release my like creative energy in any form or any way. And at the time I was like, you know what, maybe I'll start doing TikToks. And I did. And then it grew into something that was like more than I thought it was going to be. And I have a lot of goals for that app because I think like in all honesty, I really hate Twitter and I really hate Instagram because it's not the best place for artists to like grow, you know, unless you're doing fan arts or
Mhm.
like certain kind of things. But it's like a really,
Mhm.
Mhm.
really slow process to grow in these apps. But with TikTok, it was like I remember like in 1 week I already had like 5,000 people follow me, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm sorry, I could just keep going, but I thought it was really cool how like the app like the way the For You page works and how it pushes people towards
Mm.
certain people. And I like that because
Mhm.
Twitter is not like that because everyone's in the same space, you know?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think that's the thing that like attracted me to like TikTok was like, oh, there's this very wholesome, like small group of artists that just want to be there and like make cool things, you know? And occasionally
Yeah.
make fun of art and just memes and stuff like that, which is really fun to see
Yeah.
too. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my little TikTok bit.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
So
cool.
fun. Yeah. I feel like you with TikTok, I remember the first time I like opened the app, I was kind of overwhelmed because I was like, I'm not here for like, the dancing videos. You have
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
find like your specific like thing, and then when you find that like certain like niche little area, then there's so many things on there. Like you're right, there's so many like art tips that just go on in
Mhm.
TikTok. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really awesome. And I love sharing that any knowledge that you have. And I'm so glad that I could find your page because you have so much amazing insight and Procreate tips we love. I am Procreate has taken over my heart. I don't think I can like ever go back to any other program. But yeah, that's so cool. And I feel like what really caught my eye, like other than just your awesome tips, was your art style to me is so unique and so like colorful and captivating with all the textures that you use and your line art is so intricate and I'm very curious how you kind of developed that art style.
Oh wow, that's a really good question. Let's see. Oh my god, I could go on and on about art style. It's like something I'm so because I think like specifically for me, I feel like as an artist, I have always been like a chameleon. So it's like like because in my mind, I think there was like this thing going on Twitter where it's like, can you see like each side of the apple in your mind? Right? There was something like that. It was like going
Oh
back in
yeah,
like
yeah,
Twitter,
yeah.
right? So I have something like that where it's like I can see things, but like when I try to imagine it, like it's not really there, but I can kind of see like how it looks like if that makes sense. So honestly,
Mhm.
when as I just like recently found out it's like as an artist, I always just assumed that everyone was like this, but when I like draw anything or like sketch anything, I can't see what's in my mind. So I always have to find
Mm.
like references. So I think through like that like process of always having like, and I think this started a lot when I went to art school, is that I didn't like learn how to use like mood boards and stuff like that until I went to art school. And then my teachers was like telling me like, oh, this is a better way to like put things together, because that's what illustration is all about. It's like you have an idea and
Mm.
a concept, and you just kind of like make this like cool amalgamation of things, and that's like the pieces that I like to make personally, especially if it
Mm-hmm.
looks like collage kind of stuff.
Mm.
I like that kind of stuff. So I remember when I was in like, I think it was like the last year of art school, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, kind of doing everything. It's like not really sure what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing, but like you're about to reach the end of like art school. And
Mhm.
I was like really stressed about art style. And I was telling this about to my teachers, and these are like professionals in the field that already know what they're doing. One of my favorite teachers, there, Jacob Yates. He's amazing. He told me, it's like, why are you so concerned with like the art style that you're like that you like so want to like have and reach, when you can just try everything and eventually you'll get there. And this was like, I
Mm-hmm.
remember like was it a year ago, 2 years ago, when I heard that, it just like blew my mind. I was like, like I never thought of that. I was like, you could do that, because it's like all, I don't know about like, I always thought that like illustrators have to have like a brand, because that's kind of how like people phrase it to be like you need this like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
one brand, and that's the kind of style that everyone does. And I was thinking like, I was thinking years ago, it's like, I honestly just want to get paid to draw. Like I don't care what it is, what it's for. I think it's just like the act of like using my creative part of my brain and just making things was the part that I'm most interested in. So that's how I got there. I started like doing everything. I was looking at really cool like, and I love Pinterest. I love like just browsing the web for really cool like images and stuff.
Mhm.
And then I started looking at my friends. I think that's the thing that I like about art school, is that when you go to like art school, it's like you have friends that like try new things, so you get like inspired by them. I had a friend who was always like into textures, so I was like, oh, I like that, so I'm gonna put textures in my stuff. I had another friend who was like into like, I don't know, like traditional textures or like watercolor stuff, because they make watercolor pieces,
Mm,
and I
yeah.
put that in my stuff because I thought it was cool trying to like learn how to put that into my own practice. And
Mhm.
yeah, I kind of think that's like how my art style got there, because I honestly am so like, I'm always like community driven, if that makes sense, just like seeing other people do things makes me want to do things. So staying at
Mhm.
home wasn't the best thing for me. I was like,
Oh
yeah, I was
man.
like, I
Yeah.
need to be like stimulated, but my brain's just like staring at screen and wall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Man, that's so cool. And I'm so glad that you kind of had that community in art school where I feel like you really benefited from that environment of just being surrounded by artists and being able
Mhm.
to like rub shoulders with everyone. And that's so cool. I love that. Just integrating all the things into your art.
Hmm.
And I
Because
feel
that
like
is honestly, yeah.
yeah, and I feel like it's this is a nice point if we have any like younger listeners who aren't even in college yet. If you're very concerned about finding an art style, it comes naturally. It comes with like actually like learning from like people you look at it's about I always say like your art style is a Frankenstein of everything else that you like from other artists.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna meld naturally. So like
Yeah.
um continue to like look at other artists how they do stuff and like pick out what certain elements from their work you like and then try to apply it to your own work. That's how your art
Yeah.
style will soon flourish. So I think that's just an
Yeah.
important point that we should like bring out to like the younger listeners out there, like, hey,
Yeah.
your art style will come.
Absolutely, and I think I don't know if y'all feel the same, but like when I was in art school, that was like the only thing I was thinking about. Which now that I'm out of art school, I was like, why wasn't I invested in like processes and like how to think about things? Like I should have been more concerned about
Mm.
that. But when I was in art school, I was just like trying to like, it felt like a race, because I think it's like I was an
Mm.
international student in school. I felt like I had to like push myself out there, because if not, I felt like I was gonna be like, I go to a very white school, so it's like I felt like I wasn't going to stand out. And
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
was like when I think it's like the first 2 years I was there. Well, the first year, I was telling myself, this was when I was like more shy. I was like I don't like, if I start talking, I don't stop, but getting me to start
Mm-hmm.
talking is a little hard. So it's like when I was in art school, I was just like, I'm shy, it's like but I wanted to talk to people. So in my head, I
Mhm.
was like, you know what? If I don't know how to like talk to people, maybe I'll like my art speak for me. And that's kind of also what motivated me to like do cool things and try new things. Cause like people like the friends that I have now, the mutuals that I have, they're very like invested in your work, and that's the cool part about being a community. When they see the stuff that you make and how passionate you are about it, they're like, yeah, me too. And that's how you build
Mhm.
like healthy connections versus like I just
Yeah.
want to be friends with this person. But like I think that's what really got me also into like my art style that I have now. So yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's so lovely.
Thank you.
Oh man. Oh man. I'm always like when people reminisce about art school, I'm like, don't make me miss it.
I know I miss it so much.
Oh, I can't wait to interact with other artists. Like, just there, it will come eventually in the future, just like at a convention somewhere. But man, do I miss it. But yeah, moving on to uh your resume and the experience that you have. I think a really cool thing that you did is the Light Gray Art Lab internship. That's so cool. Do you want to talk about like your experience being an intern and what you learned as an artist, like helping out in this gallery setting?
Yeah, so I really love library. The people that work there, like Lindsay, like she's amazing. And I sadly, because this was happening during the pandemic, and I started my internship like after their like really big project. Like they had a Kickstarter for this what was it? It was like a world roulette thing. So I forgot to sign up for that, so I don't have a piece on it. But technically, even though like I didn't make anything, I was actually behind the scenes working on like the editorial part. So I wasn't really like illustrating or making stuff like that, but I was kind of like behind the scenes working on like getting their stuff ready. There was like pins and stuff, so I I was like, every day I would come in and I would just like take out the pins, put it back, and that's the cool part that I was doing. The other interesting thing that I learned from them is like how to manufacture like things, because I was asking them
Hmm.
questions about that. Because
Mhm.
the reason why I like started like other than the reason why I started interning there, other than it's a requirement for art school. I took a class with Lindsay, and she is amazing. She was an amazing teacher. I think she was the reason why I was like telling myself that one of my like main goals in life was to be a teacher as well, because
Oh,
yeah, because like I think it
that makes me so happy.
oh yeah, I definitely feel like we need more POC teachers, just putting that FYI into the world. And
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
like honestly, when I was there, I didn't had any of like all my teachers were white, like no flack to them. They were amazing, but I was
Mhm.
like I think it's like a desire to like be invested in like people of other cultures and diversity,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I
Mhm.
was like craving for. So like I remember when I was in her class, she was like teaching us a bunch of cool things, and then I was like, oh, I think it'll be cool to like have an intern with them, and I did, and it was fine. Sadly, like Lindsay wasn't there most of the time because of the pandemic, so it's like I was just like texting
Mm.
her more often. But every time like I needed help, she would always help me. She was really sweet about it. But yeah, I think most of my internship was just like behind the scenes, like I am doing the boxes for the Kickstarter. I am doing I was editing the book for a little, so even though I don't have one of the books, I got to see like everyone's artworks. Oh, and the coolest part for me, honestly, was the what's it like they have like a compendium at the back of the book. Now that part was very interesting, because what they did, which was really cool, was that they interviewed a bunch of professionals and asked them really thorough questions about world building, and as an illustrator, as a
Ooh.
comic artist myself, I was very invested into that. So since I had to like, since I was editing the book, I was able to like read through a bunch of like knowledge that a lot of people wouldn't know if they didn't have the book, and I thought that was the most valuable thing like I got from that internship, was like, like despite it being the pandemic and not being able to do like so many cool things, like I think it was really cool to be able to just like get knowledge from people, because I think that's like, what you yearn more when you're like out of school.
Mhm.
You're like, I want to know cool
Yeah.
things, like let me just learn from you.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man.
definitely.
And correct me if I'm wrong, aren't you doing gallery work with like Gray Art Lab, or is that with something else?
No, I'm just in one of their shows. So they have like this
Mm,
show called
okay.
like The Tomb, and oh my god, what is it called? It was like so basically it's like it's a really cool show. I've never seen anything like this, and apparently they've been doing it. But it's like a bunch of artists that are like accepted make a bunch of small like items. So I did like this sticker. I don't have it right now, sadly, but it's like this like holographic sticker, and it references like the
Mm.
theme. I think mine was like the Pandora's box, and then another bunch of artists like they sent it in, and it's like an art swap. So we make 100 items, and then each
Ooh.
artist gets like $400 worth of like art stuff from other artists. So I
Ah.
thought it was really cool. Yeah,
Whoa. That's
it is
awesome.
awesome because it feels like it's like I'll have like I was telling myself when I get the box I was gonna buy like some like I don't know I'll go thrifting and find some old box and then I'll put all these items into the box and just like my little
Yeah.
cute little like art trinkets. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man,
That's
that
so
sounds like so much
cute.
fun.
Yeah.
Man, it's making me miss like comic, like the small comic, like TCAF, like those kind of conventions, and like being with artists in the artist alley. I'm like, man, I want to do that someday of
Me
tabling that,
too.
and that gives that kind of like environment. But
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool. It's really cool hearing like all your experience as an intern and how you still learn a lot even through the midst of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
We also saw on your resume that you've been doing some freelance, such as like creating an eight page comic for the Comics anthology,
Yeah.
and doing a lot of zine work and doing a comic proposal for Highworks. Do you want to go into that?
Oh my god. Yeah.
All that.
Yeah. I could. So I think I'll start with the high work. So this was like years ago. I forgot that I put it in my resume. But I actually, if you've seen my old comics, they're really bad. Like I used to be one of those like like no shade to these artists because they make a lot of really cool stuff and really cool work. Um, but I used to do those like relatable comics like online. So like, haha, this is like a funny
Mm-hmm.
thing. Just kind of like the artist that does those like oh no comics, kind of like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like on Tapacity for like a year, and this was like before I started going to like art college. So it's like I graduated from high school, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'll just make comics. And then the cool thing about it is like I didn't know like I didn't grow as big as those other artists did, but I remember getting like probably almost like 10,000 people like reading my comics like every week, and I think that was like
Wow.
the part it like I think that really told me like, oh, I want to do this for a living because I thought it was cool, you know. And it was just
Mm-hmm.
like really like not really interesting comics, but like people enjoyed it, and sometimes it would just be like really random humor because this is like years ago when, when I was in high school, but like really random humor, and I had characters that. I mean, at the time it was supposed to reflect me, but became more of a persona that I could play with, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
then I at the same time I was making that, I saw that Hiveworks was like I think they had like an open submission thing, and I was like telling myself, I want to do this. I want to do comics for the rest of my life. You know, this is young Chinta before she went to art school. Um, so I had this other webcomic, and it was supposed to be like this like epic fantasy journey based on like Southeast Asian culture, blah blah, all that cool stuff. And so I made like a little pitch. And this is like for like imagine like an 18-year-old that knows nothing of the comic world, just making like really dumb comics online. And then I was just like, oh, I'll definitely get into that pitch, and I did one, and I sent it to them, and obviously I got rejected. I didn't know what I was doing, but no, I mean, I still find that like interesting, like the fact that they still saw my
Mhm.
work and like they were like, oh, we're not accepting it, but they were like, it's cool, and I was like, oh, so it's like it's still a story I would love to tell someday, but every year I grow as an artist, the story and the plot changes, but it was supposed to be. I mean,
Yeah.
it depends on like my mood. It's like it's my OCs. You will
Yeah.
everything that happens to me will happen to you someday. So it's like that's what I was doing. I was just like making a story where I don't know. It was something about like beating my destiny. I guess it's like I grew up in a very strict Asian household, so it's like they obviously wanted me to either be a lawyer, a doctor, I don't know what else stereotype you could put. And I had to like I wouldn't say fight, but it was a struggle to get my parents to like agree for me to be an illustrator, because they were like, is that gonna make you
Mm.
money? Honestly, right now
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know. I still feel the same way. But like I mean if it's something that I love doing, I think it's definitely something worth fighting for. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mhm.
kind of how that went through with the zine work. I think this was last summer. This was the first time I heard about zines. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I was like, I have to apply to every zine, and then I did, and that's why I have so many pieces for zines, because I didn't know that I would get accepted to most of them. I was just like, oh, like in my head, I was like, I should be prepared to get rejected. And then, I mean, I was rejected for a couple, which hurt at the time. But then, then I got into like smaller zines, which are like more fun in my opinion, because people would have Discord, people would make like Discord groups for that. And I think it was cool, like interacting with artists through that kind of like scene, because this was during no, this was before the pandemic. I can't tell anymore. But this, yeah.
What is time?
Yeah.
Time is a concept at this point.
I don't know what time works, It's like today, I swear to God, I was like, oh, I have like at least 4 hours before the podcast, and then before the interview, and then like my mind just like kind of like I don't know if you've seen this on TikTok where people talking about like ADHD paralysis. Like if you have something,
what?
Yeah. So okay, like super random and off topic, but this is literally what it feels like talking to me day to day. But like I saw this video which was explaining how like ADHD paralysis is a thing. So people have ADHD. Sometimes when they have like a big thing that they have to do throughout the day. So let's say like I remember distinctly like another time I had to wait for a package, and because I'm forcing my brain to remember I have a package, I have to pick it up. If not, it's gonna be lost forever, right? Your brain kind of like puts you on like I don't know, like standby mode. So you're just like there's the whole day and just like waiting for package.
Yeah,
that's what happened
for sure. Relatable.
Yeah,
man.
It's rough.
Yeah,
zines are really fun. Like I think that's another way for people to like really meet and connect with other artists. Definitely,
Yeah.
And like especially like since a lot of them do make the Discord groups to like connect everyone. So highly recommend. Do you ever find yourself now that you've like since you've joined a bunch of zines? Because I don't know, like if you join zines at like the same time, and even though the deadlines are like different, somehow they'll all still fall on the same day, and you're just like, why did I do this to myself?
That was me last summer. I was like 7 zines, here we go, and then it's like 7 zines got accepted, and I was like, what? I don't even make one illustration a week anymore because of art school. So it's like. It's like suddenly you just have to do 7 illustrations. You're like, what did I put?
The zine grind is real.
It is so real.
I definitely suggest like for anyone who's interested in like being in kind of this collaborative thing and getting like your art published in a little pamphlet. And it's nice to hold your art and like look through it all really cool. In like a physical thing. It's also will teach you how to deal with deadlines.
Yes.
But and it's also fun to be in a friend group who's all done zines and we're all just screaming and we're all like, oh my god, it's in. We're dying. The deadline soon.
Zine life is funny, but yeah.
No, I could really completely like zines are so fun. I think it's like I don't know if you're like an aspiring artist. I would say making or joining zines is like I think one of the best ways to like get your work out there and like honestly in my opinion the most satisfying thing about zines is like especially if they do like print copies is you getting one, and it's so cool in my opinion to have like your work like I know it's not published by like a big company, but to me it feels like a big accomplishment because it's like it feels like a show, but it's like not really a show where it's more physical and you can touch it. So I remember I joined one like Demon Slayer zine, and I didn't know how I didn't like expect it to be like that big, and then it was, and I was like, oh cool. And then like now we had like a whole bunch of, and then because of that extra money they like had like extra stock I think, so they gave like the artists like kind of one of each, so I had like a bunch of keychains and stickers and washi tapes, and I was just like this is the coolest thing. Yeah
It's so cool.
Yeah, so satisfying.
That just reminds that I like look at like anthologies like for comics, and that's kind of like an like even more like an upgrade of like some of the smaller zines. I'm like that's what I want to do in the future of like being in like an anthology with comics, because that like really blows my mind that all these comics like follow this like kind of same theme, and I'm like that's a goal of mine. But how is like making like a comic for an anthology?
Oh wow, I think that was the zine that I was the most excited about, because like I for a person that's like, I love comics, blah blah blah. I don't make a lot of comics as much as I used to,
Mm-hmm.
which sucks because I think that's like, if I really think really hard deep into my brain about my DeviantArt days, when I was just a baby, I think that's what I was doing a lot. I was like so invested, so like back then when I was like interested in like anime, I would make like really, and I say this with like a really like it was terrible. Like those comics were bad, but I was making them, and I think that's what made me like interested in art at the first time. Because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I loved comics so much. In Malaysia, we would like print comics in Malay, and it would be cheaper to buy than the original. So the original would be like in my money it would be like 50 ringgit, which is like what's 50 ringgit in dollars? I would say like $10. But
Mm-hmm.
our comics, when you reprinted it into Malay, they would be 15 ringgit, which is like, I don't know, it's probably like a dollar something. And it was like
Wow.
it was super cheap, and there was this like really big like comic scene in Malaysia because I think comics wasn't really a thing. But then there was this company called Gempa Stars that was they were like the big thing in Malaysia, and they were like pump out all these like really cool comics from like local artists. I don't
Mm.
know if y'all know like this artist named Kaoru, but she makes a lot of like, I think she makes a lot of BL now, which is cool. That's really nice. But she used to do this like series called like Helios Eclipse or something like that. I could definitely send you guys like links about that because this was like years
Mm-hmm.
ago, so I don't really know if like it'll pop up. But I remember like when I first read her comics, that was also another point of time that I remember like this is what I want to do. So
Mm.
so ADHD brain talking about the past. Anyway, so like so the comics that I made for this anthology, I think that was really fun because I've never worked with someone else, because when I make comics it's like
Yeah.
script, thing, post, and then that's it. I don't look at it. I get someone to see like if I did any spelling errors because those really, it's like one of my biggest peeves. But like other than that, it's like okay, I did most of it. But it was interesting because this time it was about like they were asking for the theme about home, and this was like I think it was like the
Oh
first
yeah.
the first 2 years that I was like in Minnesota when I was going to art school. Um, so they were like, make a comic about home, and I was like, wow, I'm so emo. I miss Malaysia so much. The food here and
Mhm.
the food there is so different. I just miss really
Mm.
cheap food. Food here is so
Yeah.
expensive for no reason. I don't know why. Anyways, anyways,
I'm
so
laughing so hard because like I international student like feels. I'm like, yes.
I know it's like because like in Malaysia it's like so cheap to like eat out, so it's like honestly
Mhm.
it's more expensive to buy groceries than to cook in my opinion. Where I'm from at least, where I was like living. Because when you buy groceries you have to buy so many things, and we only usually do that like a couple days in a week. Because like my mom was a very like very very hard worker, so it was really hard for her to like cook all the time. So we'd had to order food, but like even then like food was so affordable. We had like really cheap places like I guess it's like you call it like a Malaysian Walmart. It's called Giant, and you could go there and order food for like I would say like equivalent to probably like less than or probably around like $2 American, and that was it.
Yeah.
You could just that like it's so cheap. And then when I came here. And I'm just like, I came with the same mindset. I was like, oh man, it'd be so cool to eat outside. And then you pay $15. And my mom had to teach me, like, it took me so long to eat here, like, normally as a person, because I was always converting in my, like, I learned so well how to convert, like, USD to, like, RM so fast. Like, I see a menu and I'm just like, it's like that, like, meme with, like, the math. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is so
I
much
don't
money
know.
to
I
eat.
don't know if this is gonna make it into the video, but for the listeners out there, I am like visibly laughing because like this is such a mood.
It's so sad.
Oh my
Food should
god.
be affordable. I don't know why it's so expensive. So it's like I'm not used to that. But it's I guess it's like some way I like learned how to like cook because of that. But yeah. Anyway, so back to the comic. I was like super emo. I was like, man, I miss home. So I like wrote this like really
Mhm.
like sad piece, and I mean, like I'm reading it a year later, and I'm like, I still feel that like it was like something like deep from my heart because it's like it. I've always felt like out of place when it comes to like just even my own home in general. Like in living in Malaysia and then coming here, it's like I've been into like I've moved a lot, And I think that's the cool part about the comic was like I was trying to explore the themes of like home. Because to me, like home is not permanent, you know, especially an international student, like you sometimes you have to move, sometimes you have to find cheaper places to pay rent, you know? And I've like moved like I would say like maybe like this is like my third time now. And I'm probably gonna move like next year too because I don't know where I'm going to be and you know, it's like I'm trying to find new opportunities. Like I'm planning to do my master's. So that's what the comic was about. Like home is not permanent. And it was really cool because I had a friend. It's funny, it's like at the time when I was making the comic, it wasn't they weren't really a friend, but like they were like a mutual that I knew and we had like one class together. But I like was like obsessed with their work. So like I remember like being in class and they're like always doodling in their book and I would just like stare at her before like trying to like learn like how they draw. Like super creepy. But like I was like just invested in their process. So I was just like, wow, that person's really cool. I really want to learn how they do their stuff. And then I got to like work with them. Katie, they're really cool and they were a comics major and I was talking to them about my comics and then we would go back and forth about making it, like they would like correct me and stuff, but it was very like up in the air, like I could do whatever I want. So that was the first time I was given like a thing, like a comic thing to do, but with like anything I wanted to do with it. And yeah, so I like experimented. I wasn't really sure how it was gonna look like. All I had to like know and keep in mind it was just gonna be like a black and white comic. And then like I don't know how, but like I I always like I don't know about y'all, like I always do this thing where it's like if you give me a month to do something, I will take that last week and the last 3 days before the deadline to do it. So I just like my brain's just like let's go hyperactive mode, and then I just like go through everything and I just like finish. And honestly, it's like I feel like possessed by something, and I just like finish stuff. And then I did it. I remember finishing that comic. Like they were like, "Chita, we need the thumbnails by tomorrow," and I was like, "What? Okay." And then I just like finished the thumbnails in like one night. And I think I okay for the inking. I took like a week because you know it's like inking. You can't do that in one night, especially if it's 8 pages. So and then I did, and then sadly it didn't get like printed. We were supposed to get it printed, I think, and I think they do bring it to like TCF or something like that. I know they were going to bring it to a con because like MCAT does bring their comic students to comic cons and stuff like that. I think this was like the start of the pandemic because we made the comic in 2018 or was it 2019, and then it was like the next year that we were going to get it like put out, but it didn't. So that's kind of the sad part. But I still made a comic, and I think it's like one of my favorite comics of all time. That I mean so far that I've made. So I have more comics.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have more comics in the making, so I'm super excited.
Yes, I'm excited to read them.
Yeah.
Oh man, as someone who's kind of got more into making comics, like I kind of went from like more autobio comics, and now I'm like horror comics. I don't know how that switch happened. I love consuming comics. I love when friends talk about their process. It makes me so happy. But yeah, the next thing is not happy.
Oh no.
It's where we bring the mood down on our podcast. We ask the question, how's the job hunt going?
Oh wow, that's like I feel like that question is something I hear the most after finishing school because it's not like how are you doing or like what are you up to anymore. It's like do you have a job now? And I'm just like
Isn't there some
Where's
old
a
meme?
hello? How are you?
Isn't there
It's
some
no.
old meme that's like sometimes they don't even ask you how you are? It's like like there's a meme that I'm thinking of that's not like anyway, but yeah, no, like especially after graduating, that's like the first thing they ask you. It's like
That's gonna be the meme for this podcast
I know.
this week. There's no hi, how are you, hello. It's a how's the job hunt?
How are you? It's like my parents don't even ask me anymore. Like how I mean like they barely even do it because they know that I'm busy and I ignore my phone like most of the time to work. But then instead of like how are you guys doing now, you know, on WhatsApp, they're like, do you have a job now? And I'm just like every time they ask that, I swear like if I was like a game character and I had a bunch of like hearts, it's like you know like in Breath of the Wild, like half of my heart just goes away. Like every time they ask that, and I'm always like, this is gonna be my 13th reason, okay? Please don't ask me. Do not ask me.
Oh
my god.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we just also plunged into your heart with that too.
It's been
but
hard.
I feel for you also though, because like you and me, we're both international students, so I'm for sure we both have like the same like frustration of like we have like that deadline, that impending clock behind us that's like you must get a job now or you will have to say bye bye to this country. So I understand that stress that you're under. Like you also be like, I'm gonna stay positive and like keep the vibes great, but at the same time inside you're like, oh my gosh.
It's always
Yeah.
like that though. It's and that's the
Mhm.
hard part. I think I just made like this one single comic page. I think it was like 2 days ago. I can't remember. Time doesn't exist in my
Oh,
brain.
I remember that was so
Yeah.
good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that because I think I was like thinking about that. I was like really sad. I was like, man, I keep doing the same thing like every day and nothing new happens and I was like telling myself I think the hardest part for me it's like I like I'm not a professional but I do believe that I have grown as an artist, you know,
Mhm.
and I do believe that I can do the things that people want me to do, but the problem is that I don't have the work experience to prove that, and
Mm.
and
Mm.
that's why like people don't hire you or they look at your portfolio, they're like they don't really see what they can use, you know, and then you just like it just kind of like gets to you sometimes, and I was like really sad. I think it was like
Yeah, no.
it was like what was it? I remember it was like talking to my like roommate about like job hunting burnout. You like apply for like
Oh
10
yeah.
man,
jobs and then you're like I'm not going to do this
Mhm.
anymore. Like
it's so real.
it's
Mhm.
so
Yeah, no,
much,
I
you know?
understand that.
It's
Yeah.
hard, you know, and my international like I have like an international advisor and she's always like, do you have a job now cuz we have to update the thing?" And then I'm just like, "No." And then they're like, "Okay, we'll just put that you're doing freelance." And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like the saddest thing, you know? It's like
Mhm.
it's like what else can I do because I know I put my stuff out there, you know,
Mhm.
and then I'm making stuff every day, but it's like to what end do I just keep making until someone will finally recognize me, you know? It's like I
Yeah.
told myself when I finished school I did not want it to be that like starving artist stereotype, you know, but
Mhm.
it's not the same for
Yeah.
everyone, you know.
I fully understand.
Yeah, and I feel you about the whole international things because I'm doing my OPT now and I just like
Same.
watch I just, it's so scary. I watch time go like as if it's like whatever, but in my like in my brain, sorry, in my brain I'm just
Yeah,
like I need to do
literally.
something because I need to prove to
Exactly.
America that I deserve to stay here.
I think one frustration for me, like, being on this whole OPT thing for a year is like, how do I say this? It's like, you know, with giving the importance of taking care of yourself and giving yourself breaks at the same time, I feel like sometimes we're also at like a point where like if I stop, it's gonna like really really affect me. So I literally have no choice but to keep going. Like
Exactly.
I want to rest, and like, I mean, again, disclaimer, resting is important. Like I'm trying my best, I'm taking my weekends off and like giving myself time to like breathe, but it's that thing. It's like if I stop now, it will really affect me in the future. So you're just gonna you're it's like that continuous hustle that you're just like, I'm gonna keep going and going and going. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I feel you 100%. Like every day, like I always I also it doesn't help that like I remember talking to a friend about this. It's like art school, you're so used to this like, you know, 5 classes every week for like years, right? So this was like 2 3 years of my
Mm,
life. And then you just like stop having that
Mm-hmm.
like normalcy
that
and then
structure.
yeah, that structure and then you're just like, what do I do now, you know? And like I was so used
Mm.
to making like 2 3 like illustrations per week, which is like so unhealthy by the way. And then like now I'm just like, I guess one illustration every 3 months is okay. You know, it's like what do I do? It's like
It's
what do I do?
crazy.
I
I
can't.
look at like the
Yeah,
output that I did in art school and I'm like, how did I do that? How did I
I know.
survive?
exactly.
But to keep it on a positive note, like looking back at it now, like when I look at my old like art school stuff and I look at how much like, with the rate that I'm creating stuff now, I'm like, I am actually like more proud of like, how I've grown today after school. Like I'm looking at like because we have those such tight deadlines, like of a week you have to create this for school. I'm like, damn, when I look at those projects, could have done that so much better. Could do
I
that so much
know.
better today.
I know. I have so many comic projects that I didn't finish because of the pandemic. Like it was like the worst time of my life because I am so like invested in community work that like when the community part was not there, I was like, oh no, I'm like alone now, and that was like something I wasn't used to, you know, because I was used to making myself like accountable by going to school physically, going to my little studio, you know. I love my little studio because it's like the place where me and my friends would just watch random things while we draw or we like sing, and it's like so fun. But now it's like 24/7 now. It's like I'm in front of my room, in front of my like computer, and it's just me, and I'm like, I yeah, it's just like an overwhelming like silence that I have to deal with, you know. So it's just hard, especially like just like doing work nowadays. It's just like you have to like force yourself to kind of like create new ideas. Like a couple of days ago, I was like, you know what, making 4-page comics is so hard sometimes for me. So why don't I just do 1-page comics? And now I'm trying to do that as like a project, you know? Because I think there was an international student that did that for their master's thesis. I can't remember their name, but they did like this whole like really thick book of like comics, and they like printed out into like a huge book. And I think it got a lot of recognition. I think they probably won like an Eisner. I can't remember. My memory's like so bad, but like I thought it was like the coolest thing. I was like, maybe I could do something like that, and as a form of like coping mechanism for like healing, you know, and then like also a good way to experiment. So every day I try new things, or like every like 3 or 4 days or so I make a new page, you know, and it's a little bit more like digestible than making like one illustration per week, you know.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
I think that lends well into our next question, which is more positive, and it's what are your like dream projects / goals / aspirations? Like if the sky's the limit, like usually we talk to animated people who work in animation, so we're like, is it becoming a director on a feature film?
We talk to animated characters
or like a showrunner of your own show. So for you, what is something that you want to achieve in the future? Biggest goal, biggest wish.
That is a really good question. I have like tons of goals. Honestly, I remember like years ago I was like, my biggest goal is to work at Adventure Time, and then they ended it, and I was like, I have no goals.
Oh my god. Wait, relatable, because that was me. I'm like, I really want to like design some characters for DuckTales, and now DuckTales has ended, and I'm like, well,
it's like, bye forever. I guess I'll just move on. I know. Oh god, okay. Well, I have a few goals. I think one of my biggest goals is to make my own graphic novel. I think that would be a very big achievement.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what it looks like or what it is, but just to have my name in a book being published by anyone would be so like. It's funny because it's like, now that you mention it, like I think Piao
yeah, oh my god,
like, closed.
Sad times.
And I was like so sad. I was like, I want to do a comic for them, you know, but I'm not at that point yet to make something cool for them. So I just collect their books like every time they make a new book. And then like they were like, we're closing because, you know, YOLO, because that's literally what they said to me. And then I was just like, I'm so sad. Time just keeps moving. But if I had the resource, the time, and the commitment to it, I would definitely want to make my own graphic novel. I don't care like what it's about. I think it's like, if I were to make one, it would either be like more like autobiographical, where it's like more about my like self and life, or it'll be about some fantasy story, because I've always wanted more like Southeast Asian represent that's not about dragons.
Yes! Yes! The way I screamed.
No, not about dragons. We have ghosts, we have spirits, we have black magic, all this cool stuff. I want to talk about it, and that's what my story was gonna be about. You know, and actually, if I could, I would love to make a TV show. Like, I've always wanted to make one. Like, a cartoon show, you know, just like, you know, like Steven Universe, Adventure Time. Like, I grew up with that, you know? That's the stuff that, back then when the internet was a thing, I would just stay in front of my TV, and that's what I would watch, you know? And I would love to make, like, a cartoon show that's very more, like, young adult focused, because a lot of new shows now are very, like, for kids. But I'm not saying that it's just for kids, but that's, like, their, like, you know, target demographic. But it's like, it's weird because like I grew up in the 90s. I would watch stuff like Hey Arnold and, you know, stuff like that, and they would talk about like adult situations, and as a kid I like could understand them. There wasn't a problem with that, you know. So if I could, I would love to make like some sort of like Southeast Asian fantasy story, you know,
Oh, that sounds so
and
cool.
not
Yeah, I'm so
yeah.
glad you bring that up because I remember like looking at your website earlier today and like the first thing I looked at was your VizDev like little pitch thing and I was like, hold on, we got a Southeast Asian fantasy pitch right here. I am all for this because you guys know that I'm for fantasy stories that aren't Western. We need more of
Yes.
those.
Yes, more fantasy stories.
More brown Asians, come on.
Exactly. Like more brown Asians, you know, more like, you know, I would want more like women like main characters. That would be fun, you know,
Yes.
break stereotypes and stuff. That's what my characters were based off of, you know, because I always grew up like, you know, they would call it like tomboyish, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I want characters that are like that, but are not so focused and restricted to just their gender, you know, like break social
Yeah.
norms, you know, and talk about like stuff that goes through our countries that other people would know and stuff like that, you know, but in a fantasy, different kind of setting kind of way, you know?
Yeah.
Because I love that. Or like something sci-fi. Like I love sci-fi and I love cosmic horror. And if I could combine all three of this, that would be the coolest thing someday.
I love
yeah.
that.
I'm a huge cosmic horror fan, so it's cool to see that you make that kind of stuff. So it warms my heart.
Yeah.
I would love more stuff like that in the world.
Oh
So, yes,
Oh
man.
my
thank
god, that
you.
would be so dope.
Manifesting.
I'm here for this.
Yeah.
I am here for this.
And that's why you
Yes.
should hire Jelly. Cynta,
Yes.
please.
Hi, Jelly.
Please. Oh my goodness. Like all these ideas, these are stories that we need and your style is so unique. And I feel like especially like looking at some of this like our animation landscape, it's like I feel like it's a voice that we really need and a style that would be really refreshing and add so much to what's currently being created right now. Like
Yeah.
I really hope that this dream isn't just a dream and it can become a reality in the future for you.
It will.
hope so,
It
too.
will.
But
I
yeah,
hope so.
oh my god.
Every day I just pray for like, I don't know. I'm just hoping someday somehow my name's just dropped to some director and they're like, ooh, cool, and then just like hire me or something. Or like if I ever manage to like be an art director some way somehow in my life, like I would definitely try to make this happen because I feel like these are stories that need to be told. You know, we need more Southeast Asian like representation. You know, that's actually like not based on aesthetics, but actually part of the culture, like how we grew up with
Mhm.
the food that we, you know, it's like, and then like I think like I don't know, more fantasy would be great. More horror would be nice too. You know what? It's funny that you mentioned like when I think about it, it's like we had tons of really like scary like cartoon shows as kids. Like Invader Zim it scared me so much as a kid. Okay, there was one episode where like they had like this like cow thing, and then like there was a bunch of like Zim ended up eating a bunch of people, and like that was just so creepy. But I
Yo, we
loved
had-
it so much.
We had scary shows as a kid. What's that other monster show called that I was actually like I was super into as a kid? I think They're Real Monsters. That was actually
Yes!
kind of freaky that if
Yes!
you watch it as a child,
Yeah.
like I would be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't understand how like younger me was obsessed with this show because it's actually kind of terrifying."
Yeah, and it was so good, and I feel like we need more of these settings, like horror stories. I think it's so good. Like,
definitely.
I mean, like now there's like stuff like the Owl House, which I love. You know,
Ooh,
it's all
yeah.
about witches, and that is like that. Chef's Kiss. It's a really good show. I really like it. And like there was like others too. There was like Courage the Cowardly Dog. That was really good. You know,
Oh, yeah.
and they get creative with their like scary parts. Like sometimes they just throw like a super realistic 3D character. You're just like,
Yeah.
whoa, what is that? That is so
Yeah.
creepy, but it was so fun. You know.
Yeah. I would love
Oh, that's so
I think
cool.
we definitely need this in our industry. But
Yes.
yes, we are coming to the end of this wonderful podcast. I wish we could talk more and forever about this because this is definitely a topic that is very important. But before we close out, we have our final little corner called the speed interview. The interview is not over; it's just gonna get faster, and it's where
Sure.
we ask a bunch of questions, rapid fire. You have 2 minutes to answer all these questions. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, are you ready?
I am ready. Put me on the spot.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Digital or traditional?
Oh, definitely digital.
Biggest artistic influence.
Oh God. Okay, now that's being put on the spot. Okay. I guess like anything 90s cartoons related, like Adventure Time, everything, all of that was like that is in my
Cool.
brain like all the
Nice.
time, 2%.
Thumbnails, roughs, or cleanup?
Oh
Inks
wow.
slash inks.
Man, I really love roughs because I love drawing, but inking is like there's some sort of like just like perfect moment when you're like inking. I would
Mhm.
probably say like inking
Nice.
because inking is like really
Mm.
fun.
Okay, strangely enough, we know the answer to this already, but like Instagram or Twitter.
Can I say none?
Yeah.
Okay.
That works. Proudest achievement.
Oh, proudest achievement. Finishing art school.
Lit.
That
Yes.
was
Horses versus cars.
horses versus. Oh god. Oh my god. In terms of drawing, oh my god, both of them. Maybe I'll choose cars because I can
Yeah.
show a little fantasy or sci-fi shit and it looks like a car.
Lit.
Horses won't. Horses won't.
Favorite art tip.
Favorite art tip. Drink water, stretch, take breaks.
Nice.
That's a good art tip.
Favorite animated and live action movie.
Oh my god. Okay. Let's see. I really top of my mind I'm thinking of like Spider-Verse because that blew my mind.
Yes.
Those
yes.
textures, those everything was like, wow, we should do this like every year. Like just one new movie like that, you know? So yeah.
Okay. 3 favorite artists.
3 favorite artists. Oh my god. This is funny because it's like I remember art style like in detail, but their names are like gone forever.
Relatable.
Let's see. I would say James Dean. I love his like stuff. It's like
Nice.
cool. Like whatever he makes is really cool. I also like was it like JC Leyendecker?
Oh.
I think his stuff is like I think every illustrator is like I've seen their work and they've probably impacted me in some way somehow in my life because his the way he renders is really good. Oh god, let's see the last one. Last one's really tricky. I would say actually one artist I've been like looking a lot now is like the creator of the Owl House, like Dana Terrace.
yeah.
I
Dan
think.
Terrace, yeah.
Like she
pretty
or
cool.
they make a lot of like stuff which is like the fact that like I like I've seen the interview with them and they like just draw like so much. They have tons of sketchbooks. That's why they can draw like that. So that
Mhm.
yeah.
Nice. That's a great that's a great end of the interview. I love hearing all the insight.
Yes.
Yay!
I'm so happy you brought up James Jean. I haven't heard like people bring up James Jean in a while because I do love their work too, and I'm like, yes, so cool.
It's so good and
Yeah,
and he started
definitely.
with comics too, so that was very
Hey.
inspiring.
Fables, right? It's
Yeah,
Fables,
yeah.
right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Fables was my jam when I was younger.
Nice.
It's good.
But,
It's good.
Yeah, no,
Thank you
for
so
being on the
much.
podcast. It was so nice talking to
It
you.
was so
Thank you.
lovely. It was amazing.
Where can people find you and hire you and contact you on the internet?
Cool. So on the internet, so my website is j4lly.com, and that's kind of the name and alias I go with, like with all my like social
Mhm.
media. I think Twitter is also the same, but I have an underscore at the back because someone took it already. So like, ta-da. Sad, but and Instagram is the same one too, and I think TikTok is the same one too. So I think all 4 of those are like a great place. I have a Ko-fi, but I don't really use it. But tips are nice. you know,
Yeah,
keep-
definitely.
Yes,
So-
support.
Do you have an
Yeah.
email?
Oh yeah, an email would be so cynta.cham@gmail.com. So it's cynta .cam@gmail.com. So
Nice.
Yes. We will put all of these links on our posts when we hype up Jelly. And yeah, and if you want to follow the podcast on our socials as well, it's on Twitter and Instagram. It's at HeyHiRusPod. And we're also on Ko-Fi if you would like to help support us. We're on ko-fi.com/HeyHiRusPod.
Yeah, and if you would like to send us any feedback or any questions for our little speed interview, because we've been using the same ones, definitely reach out to us
Yes.
at heyhiruspodcast@gmail.com. Anyway, thank you guys for
Yes.
listening. Thank you
Thank you,
again, Jelly, for
Thank
being
you.
on our wonderful podcast. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Yes.
see ya.
Bye.
Bye.